want to talk about Holy Motors.
Okay.
Holy Motors was at the cinema this weekend, and it's amazing. It's just amazing. So this is a film by a guy named Leos Carax. I'm not familiar with the director's name, but it's a French film. And so it has a central figure named Louis, and he has a bunch of appointments on this day, the day the film's taking place. And he's riding around in a limo, and they say, okay, there's the file for your first appointment. He opens up the file, and he's like, okay, we don't see the file. And he puts the file aside, and then he pulls out a mirror and a makeup thing and a wig. And he puts on all this stuff. And then he gets out of the limo, and he's dressed as an old lady. And he's not just dressed as an old lady. He's dressed as he believably looks like an old lady who's begging for change. He's got, like crutches that he's holding on to and walking forward. And his first appointment is just him standing out on the street begging for money for like an hour. And then he goes back to the limo. And then he's got his next appointment. And his next appointment is he goes and puts on like a motion tracking suit with like the little balls there. And he goes out and he does different scenes for this other thing, this motion capture thing. And then he comes back and he does another thing. This goes on and on and on and on. This movie is so bizarre. Now, I finally now understand what was going on in the film. I won't spoil it for you because it's worth discovering. I had a theory of what was happening, and then I went home and I was like, okay, I think this is what was happening, but it wasn't quite crystallized. And I read Roger Ebert's review, and he had the same theory I did. So I was like, okay, well, that's probably what was happening then. But it's so bizarre and so interesting. It reminded me a lot of Mulholland Drive, where it's like you're trying to keep up with it, and by the time you get to the end, you're like, did I understand that? Did I know what was happening, or am I just hoping? Does my mind just put all this together in a format that I could experience? And it's just so fascinating. There's this scene, from the trailer that's sort of most common is he walks into like a modeling shoot, and he's dressed as like a leprechaun almost. So he's got like this weird hair and this long beard and a green suit, and he's barefoot, and his toenails are weird looking, and that scene is so much weirder in the movie. It goes on for like 10 minutes before and 10 minutes after. I mean, it's such an amazing movie. It's one of my favorites of the year. This will definitely, I think, be in the mix when Best Foreign Language Picture comes along. And some really fascinating like commentary on things as well. There's this one scene that I won't talk about too much, but it really sort of encapsulated sort of, I guess, what the director's idea of, sort of almost like this this idea of like what is a model and how is a model expected to act versus how logic dictates a human being would act. What if you really did have a human-sized mannequin? How would you treat it? And that's how this model is treated in the film. And as it's happening, you're like, why isn't she like resisting any of the things that are? And then you sort of get it. You catch up to it. But that's really sort of the whole thing about the movie. You just kind of keep catching up to it. And every time I thought, okay, this is done surprising me. This is done being bizarre. Just boom, came right back at me and made some other crazy scene that I never would have expected in a million years. And then the final scene right before the credits is one of the most unexpected and hilarious scenes I've ever seen in my entire life. It's amazing. It's just amazing. I could not believe what I was seeing. So I recommend that to everyone. Every single person needs to go see that movie. Even more so if you like sort of things with, especially Mulholland Drive. If you watch Mulholland Drive and thought, I love that movie, got to see Holy Motors because it's right in the same vein. It's not as good, I think, as Mulholland Drive. It's not as it doesn't have as much of an interesting thing to say as Mulholland Drive. It won't grab you the way Mulholland Drive grabbed you. I don't think it didn't for me at least, but it is an exceptional film. So yes, definitely take a look at that one. Place for Film is recorded at WFIU Studios in Bloomington, Indiana.